In fact, when we got there, we would knock on doors to find a place to live because we're just trying to save money for college. That was kind of our thing.
I often say that in America, we like success, but we don't like successful people.
And you have to be pretty good at that to be able to tell a homeowner, you might have a few dings. It's not worth putting in the claim.
Are you blaming lawyers?
I get about 5 to 7 leads an hour knocking on doors, just saving people money on their insurance.
So why do we say that they lose money? Where's the money going?
If they don't see you working, they're not going to want to work hard. They're going to think you're entitled.
Do you see a lot of vandalism here?
I think there is. I think there's more than anybody wants to admit. I think there's billions of dollars of vandalism a year to get roofs bought.
All right, guys, I have a very, very special treat for you today. Today, we're talking about wearing the business hat of insurance agency. We're not talking about insurance adjusters. We're not talking about a roofing business. We're talking about insurance business. Troy Thompson in the studio. Thank you so much for being here.
Appreciate it, Dimitri. Yeah. Pinnacle Insurance in Minnesota. We're 15 minutes away from your office. And I'm excited to offer a little bit of insight coming from their insurance agency owner perspective. I know a lot of roofers, they do want to network with us. And hardest market in the history of our country for insurance. I'm happy to explain what a hard market is if you don't know, but it's a crazy time in the industry. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Would love to have a conversation, but I would like to start with early on, all the way back to your career and your background. You started out after college doing door-to-door book sales. How did you get into that? Right. And what did you learn?
I like how you've done your research. Southwestern. It's a book sales company still around out of Nashville, Tennessee. They focus on college kids, and you go to a different state for the summer and literally knock on doors selling encyclopedias. Now, that was 25 plus years ago when I did it.
I have those guys knocking at my door, selling books, selling religious books.
Yeah, it's not necessarily religious books. It's for to help kids with
yours
school.
Not, but like it's very popular. Selling books is.
If you can sell books in 2024, you can do anything, right? And even 25, 30 years ago to sell books, I mean, that's not easy. It's not sexy. We would knock on doors 80 hours a week. 80 hours a week, 7:30 a.m. Monday through Saturday to 9:30 p.m. We'd have meetings on Sunday. We'd go to a state we didn't know anyone. In fact, when we got there, we would knock on doors to find a place to live because we're just trying to save money for college. That was kind of our thing.
Wow.
And I saw so many no soliciting signs going door to door with Southwestern that I told my wife, once we build our dream home, which we have, we're going to have a sign on the house that says soliciting. Get rid of the no. Wow. Just because I've said no soliciting so much in my life. I'm going to say soliciting just to mess with people. And, you know, because I do. I like to buy from anyone that comes to our door.
Because you respect the game.
I respect the game.
You've done it.
100%.
But it's interesting because in our culture today, so we have two types of business owners. One is very flashy, kind of show it all, designers, clothes, and all of that stuff. And, you know, G-Wagons and, you know, cars. And then other type is very wealthy, but no one knows about it.
Exactly.
Why do you think is that?
They don't care. They don't need to be flashy. I mean, I like that style. I mean, we built a nice house, my family, but very, you know, modest vehicles. We don't need to spend it. I don't know why. And I think when you want to grow in business, it's more of a game at some point, right? You keep score with money. You don't necessarily need to buy a bunch of nice Rolexes or stuff. That's not me. I don't think it's you either, right?
What I notice, and this is just personal observation, because I see people, you know, buying Lambos, buying cars, and I have no problem with that. Like, but my thing is, rich people, they're smart and they understand their place in the marketplace, and it's a game for them. Like, why do we know that founder of Google drives Prius? Why do we know that Jeff Bezos used to drive Honda Accord? You know, because, you know, in the roofing business, for example, why do we have such a big turnover and why employees or sales guys always go for their own? Because if a business, I would argue, if a business owner is flashy, like, you know, if you drive, you know, $250,000 car and you have 3 sales guys, how long before one of those sales guys will want what you have? Because you're flashing in front of them. And I would, like, you know, if you're a founder of, you know, any company, and someone is making 10 times less than you, but they see the business model, what's stopping them to do? But now, if you're just like them, if they see that every day you drive similar car, you're just like them, I feel like that drive, like that competition doesn't exist. They don't want to compete with you. They want to help you, because no one wants to build someone's empire at your expense. That's how people feel. And I feel like in 2024, more than ever, what's your best sales tip or trick when you go door to door with your kids or yourself? What do you do now? Like, how do you sell? What's your approach?
Hey, I'm Troy, Pinnacle Insurance, right down the road. I bet we can save you money on your auto and home insurance.
By the way, I'll talk. Thank you for coming, because my wife actually called me yesterday. She's like, not gonna lie, Dmitry, I'm mad right now. And she wasn't like mad picking a fight, but she's like, I just got off the phone with our insurance agent. So perfect timing for this podcast. She did
That's
not
why
know
I came by.
So I have 2 speeding tickets last year, and my car insurance
Dmitry
went up $200 per month. So I asked her, like, per month on top of it, like what year? Yeah, $200 per month on top of what we've been paying. And I have 3 cars. I'm like, how much?
Is your 16-year-old driving?
Huh? Not yet.
Not yet.
She has a permit. She's driving. She's gonna get it in a couple months.
Get ready, man. It's
I know.
Which is one of the reasons. I mean, auto insurance is a mess. It's almost
what's
as big
going
a
on
mess
with auto
as
insurance?
home.
Why is such a big mess? Because that's what our agent told us. So the rates are going up, and they already were going up, because we also were up for renewal, and they check your record. And we asked, like, can we shop around for insurance? And he said, well, yeah, you're gonna go with a 5-year now, so you have a 5-year record, not just last year, and you might even end up paying more.
From roofing, inflation is crazy. Litigious society. People are suing more than ever. Even umbrellas are more and more challenging to get for people, because carriers are paying out more money than ever.
So you blaming lawyers?
I'm blaming lawyers. I'm blaming the cost of vehicles and bumpers and the technology and everything. It's so much more to repair.
Yeah, you have all the sensors. You have all.
And insurance industry in general is in turmoil, along with home insurance, which I hope we can touch on too.
Sure.
Hail is a mess. The state. Pretty much everybody talks about Florida. Sometimes even to this day, they're like, "Oh, the reason rates are going up is because of Florida and California." You know what? I would bet to say the entire country is not Florida. Not as extreme, but it's not. It is extreme in Minnesota. Trust me.
Well, usually it starts there. It usually starts in California, Florida, or whatever. Like the busiest, the most advanced states, or where you will have the most hurricanes. But what's your take on insurance crisis in Florida? Because for years we've been talking about insurance crisis in Florida, but then such a big debate. 7, 8 companies go out of business, but did they really go out of business? Because they still have assets, they still have money.
They do, but they're losing money. And I'm not an expert at Florida, but I have a lot of colleagues and friends down there that say it's a mess. The hurricanes and the flooding are the big thing.
Sure.
And I think Citizens is one of the only, which is almost like a state-funded agent.
You don't believe it's made up?
No, I don't. But these insurance companies aren't stupid either. And there's a reason they have the big buildings in all the cities. So to go real quick to one of the things I wanted to talk about today is rates. The real victims are the homeowners right now, because their rates are doubling and tripling in the last 5 years. Every single company across the board, and I'll just speak to Minnesota, is going up about 30-40% a year for the last 2-3 years. And have people's incomes gone up double and triple in the last 5 years? Heck no. So it's gonna be an interesting, it already is an interesting time, because people can't afford their rates. And at my agency, we are dealing every day with probably 10 people calling in saying, this is unacceptable. My rates went up $1,000 last year, and now they're going up $1,200 this year. We didn't budget for that. And we can reshop them. I mean, we have some of the best carriers out there, but half of them are getting out of the business. They make you bundle. They won't write you unless your roof is within 10 years. Or your house age is 10 years or newer. And if you have any kind of record, any kind of claims, even a zero payout hail claim, and you better not have multiple in 5 years, which pretty much everyone does now.
Yeah.
They're just looking at you like, okay, this person puts in a lot of claims. We don't want them. So
uninsurable?
It's getting harder and harder and harder to find carriers that want to insure people.
Or you will pay more in premiums.
You know, or they just don't want to write you. And that's carriers are leaving the state. Carriers are just giving declines.
Would you say it's harder to start insurance agency now, like independent?
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
You can start.
So what your dad did, 20 years ago? It's not possible today. When did your dad start?
Yeah, he went independent about 17 years ago.
17 years ago. So 2005, 2006?
Yeah.
So when I came to the country, so you would say what he did is impossible today?
It's possible. I mean,
but it will require more money.
What it takes contracts to no carriers are giving you contracts right now. You have to try to sign on with an aggregator, like an SIAA or an Atlas. And I don't know if you know that. It's kind of like a way that agents can get contracts because they are a group, like an association almost. So it makes it easier. But going direct and getting a contract is darn near impossible. Like our top carrier, I'll give an example, Auto Owners. Great company. And they, I think, put on one new agency last year, way up north somewhere. None in the Twin Cities. And they're probably not going to put on any this year. Because the scary thing is they're afraid to write more business and they can't get enough rate. And which comes full circle with the roofing industry and hail.
But why they're not writing more? I mean, isn't it like sales move things around? Like,
why aren't they writing more business? Why don't they want to write business? They're paying out more than they bring in premiums. So if they're bringing in $1,000 in premiums and always pay out $1,500 total, I mean.
But that's not what. All right, let's talk about like help me understand this on a biggest scale. So your State Farm, your Allstate, because those are publicly traded companies and stuff, and they have a public statement. So I review their financials. I never could understand it. So someone like State Farm, I remember like 2018, 2019, you know, in premiums they collect $65 billion. They pay out $5 billion or so, like $5-6 billion a year. That's what State Farm, you know, pays. And then you have your overhead and stuff, and they stack money away. So why do we say that they lose money? Where's the money going?
I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. And I guess there's different reports out there.
Yeah.
But State Farm is not I mean, that'd be like 20, 30, 300, 3,000%.
So
like
they would report.
A good loss ratio is if you bring in $65 billion, maybe you pay out $63 billion. They're not playing the game to make that much more money. But the problem is, in this day and age, they're paying out, instead, like that $65 billion example, they're paying out $75, $85, $95 billion compared to every 65 they bring in. They're paying out way more money than they're making, which is why the rates are going up.
So their net profit, I remember like Allstate profit would be like $3-4 billion a year. So like State Farm, if they bring $65 billion, that's the reports I've seen. Like, because I covered this like 2019 to 2020, I did like recent years, but on paper they're making like $4-5 billion, like 10% net almost on what they bring.
10%.
So that's what they were reporting. So they would pay out $5 billion and they would make $5 billion, and the rest is like operating expenses, allocation, like all of that. But they're not. State Farm does not pay out $50 billion. That's the thing. Like, even if you look at the cost of, like hurricane, that's like $5 billion, $10 billion hurricane, like for entire like worth of damage, they say. So we don't like. That's why roofers don't understand it. Lawyers don't understand it. Like,
I guess I probably don't fully understand it either. All I know is the jig is up and rates are doubling and tripling.
That's
because back in the day, insurance was for that life-altering tornado or fire that burns your house down. Now you go to a neighborhood in Brooklyn Park, let's say, and almost every house has a $50,000 to $100,000 claim every 5 years. Think Think about that. If they're paying $2,000 a year in their home premium, how does an insurance company make that up?
Yeah, but you have so many houses
there are so many houses, but almost everybody in the Twin Cities has had a hail claim recently. And if an average, what's an average hail claim? Let's say, Dimitri,
20,000 maybe.
20 just for the roof.
Well, I mean, in Minnesota, I mean, you'll go from 10 to, there used to be 2018, used to be like 10, but everything is, you know, prices went up. Yeah. So I would say roof probably 15,000 and all around maybe like 30 on average.
Yeah, 30. So if your home insurance premium was 2,000, that would be 15 years of zero claims for the insurance company to break even.
But my counter to that is the stories where people pay for 30 years and then they have a claim, they get denied. So they get punished for, like, I hear those stories a lot in Chicago. So a lot of hardworking guys who've been with the same State Farm for like 30, 40 years, they file a claim first time in their life and they're like, oh,
that would be frustrating.
Yeah.
I have their back too. I see all angles.
Yeah.
I definitely see that side. I see the roofer side saying, hey, they need to get this money because the insurance company is insuring them for it. I see the homeowner side. I pay all this money for insurance. I should get it. My side as an independent agent, I'm kind of on the side of we're getting inundated with claims if there is that terrible hail claim, and we don't get paid extra on it. Nobody's going to feel sorry for me, but I can't sell more insurance if all I'm doing is talking to people with claims problems needing to put in their claim. That's my job, though. But we also get hit, and this is good for your other roofing companies that follow you to know, we get something called contingencies, which are bonuses based on our loss ratios. And it's a lot of money that we could and should be getting, like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, but we almost never get it because of hail right now. And it's not our fault. You know,
I have a question for you. I always been curious why insurance companies are not going after shingle manufacturers, because not only about hail, so we have a lot of wind claims, not only in Minnesota but all over the country. So shingle manufacturers, you know, put out their promises and their claims, right? Like, you know, 130-mile wind warranties, and right, and then 60-mile wind comes through.
Yeah,
shingles blown
I
up.
think for sure go after them.
You know why? But you never see that. Claim is a claim, act of God, whatever. And then and I'm talking about 1-2-year-old roofs. So it's not something old. Insurance companies are huge, smart. They have money. They have legal and all of that. Why they're not coming after shingle manufacturers?
I agree with you. That's a great idea. Subrogate. They can pay the claim and then go to the manufacturer. I don't know how that works. You know, I do know some of our carriers are getting more serious too about fraud. I know you talked about that on some of your podcasts when, you know, every time about midsummer when people are like, oh, we haven't had a hailstorm yet. And those roofers with their $100,000 trucks, payments. And
do you see a lot of vandalism here?
I think there is. I think there's more than anybody wants to admit. I think there's billions of dollars of vandalism a year to get roofs bought. And you know, the carriers, they have, you know, drones now, satellite, even talking about looking for the vandalism more and prosecuting. I don't think it's like it's a problem where people need to go to jail for it. I think it's that big of a problem instead of, oh man, we'll slap you on the wrist and say, don't do it again. I mean, if you're damaging someone's property intentionally, it's a felony. You should go to jail. But no, but it doesn't really go that far. And I'm not saying there's great companies out there. I know a lot of great companies here in Minnesota that would never think about doing that. But I think there's a lot that do too.
There's something happening to society. I can't explain it. I cannot understand it. I refuse to understand it. I was in Greensboro, South Carolina 2 weeks ago, and we're checking out at Lowe's, checkout, and this, man checking us out, and something came up with about theft, and I asked him a question like, how big is the theft here? He's like, oh, every day. So someone just stole something. And he said, are you going to call the police? He's like, nope. I'm like, why not? And he said, well, we know them. And here's what he told me, the Lowe's guy. He said, we are waiting for so they're documenting it. They see the cameras. He said it happens every freaking day. I mean, if you look at Walmart theft. They'll have like $3 million a year worth of theft. I mean, think about that number. But here's
3 million?
Yeah, like per store.
Okay. Yeah.
Per store. Like you run a small store like Walmart, it's insane. You can't call police. But this guy tells me this. He said, we know who they are. We know what they do. We are waiting for the number to go up so we can lock them.
They're creating like a file on them. You've stole the...
Exactly. So every time, so the people coming in, they're stealing like your nails, your whatever, but there's cameras everywhere. So if you steal, let's say $100 and you call the police, you're not going to get much because I think he told me it has to pass like either $3,000. There's a minimum. So if below that number is this, but after that, that's a felony, that's a jail time, what's not. And I'm thinking there like how crazy it is that you have to sit and watch people steal from you. And I feel like insurance companies doing something similar because if you're creating damage here and there, maybe it's not big enough, but I do see that we do get persecutions. It's almost like they have to make a case out of it. But I feel even like roofing insights, and I'm not bragging about what we do, but I know I've heard it hundreds of times now that people, like when we start exposing people, love it or hate it, even Lance Beckman yesterday said, like, I hate your scam alert videos. But, even my close friends told me, Adam Sand, my close buddy from Canada, he said, Dmitry, I always think in everything I do, like it kind of became a thing. Like, would Dmitry cover me? Like,
what would Dmitry do?
Yeah, would Dmitry call me out on this? Would Dmitry make a video about it? Because people are conscious now. Because now you have a media that can make episode about you, and YouTube is huge. Like, you don't want people to Google your name and have a YouTube video exposing you because you're done. At that point, you are done. You can't scam people anymore. And I would argue that YouTube and media in general is more powerful than even a court system. That's why, scammers, big people, like tomorrow I'm doing the news on this guy, and I'm telling you, he's not gonna do what he's been doing.
He's not gonna be happy?
Yeah, no. So the guy filed bankruptcy, and he's a coach now. And actually, I don't even pick those stories. My team does. They look around, and he still have victims today. He's a homeowners who he needs to refund money and stuff, but he's going and teaching how to be a successful contractor, how to manage debt, and how to be careful with debt. But borrowing money is good. Exactly. So he's giving financial advice, and I'm just putting him in a bit like, hey guys, this guy's teaching. Here's his class. Here's the post. Right now, he's selling course. But here's what's happening. He filed bankruptcy, and he's in the local news. But again, even in local news, it's not as powerful as YouTube because people are not going to find local news 1 year from now. But YouTube with the search power, it never goes away.
Beautiful.
And I feel like...
It's like going to the fat personal trainer. Why are you going to do that?
Exactly. But the thing is, insurance companies are making examples of few roofers here and there. And I feel like when you do that, now others will be afraid because now that's a precedent. Like, oh, I don't want to be that guy because your career is ruined. And why?
It is. It should be ruined at least. Dmitry, can I had something I wanted to touch on. And because I know I've watched a lot of your podcasts. I love your videos. One is network with independent insurance agencies and owners, agents, to get those leads. Because like I remember 2017, June 11th, you do too, right? That storm. I probably had 400 leads within a week to give out to roofers that I know and trust. And I did, and I don't see any money of that. One of the reasons I like to do it, obviously, is to say you have damage, you don't have damage. And for the roofers out there networking with insurance agents, the worst thing you can do is go out to a lead that they give you and then have that client end up calling the agent back saying, well, this roofer guy you referred me to says I have damage. Now there's no coverage. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now there's no coverage, and what are you doing? He says it's damage, and now I want to fight it, and now I'm in the middle working. The biggest thing I want to do is refer it to a roofer, have that roofer tell them they have damage if it's good damage, tell them they don't though, and then be able to say it in a way that they're okay with it. And you have to be pretty good at that to be able to tell a homeowner, you might have a few dings, it's not worth putting in the claim. So in some of the roofers I've done, you know, I learned real quick, okay, I'm going to refer to this guy because he doesn't put in a claim for everybody. He tells people they don't have damage. So we're saving the insurance companies money too. We're doing what's right for the client. We don't want to have all this fraud. We don't want to have all this waste in landfills. When somebody has a 3-year-old roof and you have a few dings on the shingles and the siding, and it's like nobody knows.
I almost feel like if I were you, and this is like just brainstorming right now, but if I were you, if I would be giving away leads, I would ask for some kind of report back to me what happens to that, you know, whether it's damage, no damage. It could be simple form and stuff. But if you have, let's say you have 400 leads and you give away 400 leads, and then, you know, you didn't get anything in return, I mean, you're exposing yourself. That's why, you know, I came up with the directory. I don't give bad recommendations. Like if you give me 400 leads and I give it to my 400 contractors and they screw up, I feel like I owe you. I feel like I have to make it right with you. Like, because, you know, if I tell homeowner, I have a roofer for you, and that roofer does anything wrong, they come back to me and say, Dmitry, and I do it all the time. Like, you know, I feel like the person who give out recommendation is responsible for that recommendation. It's not like, oh, I have a great roofer, hire him. But if something goes wrong, you know, do your due diligence.
Yes.
You should do, well, that's why I ask for recommendation, so I don't have to do due diligence.
Exactly.
And
I would never go that far saying you should really use this guy. He's great. Because one of the problems too, when you get that busy, if you're used to doing 10 roofs a year, you have 100 roofs to do. If you're used to doing 100 roofs a year, you have 1,000 to do.
Yeah.
And stuff gets messed up. And I'm like, if you want someone, I have some people, but I want to check out directory. We'll have a conversation about that for sure. I like that.
What do you think about insurance programs though? Because a lot of insurance, what they do is, you know, they enroll contractors in their program, they give their leads, but now they tell them how much to charge, what's fair, like your managed repair programs. You a fan of them? What do you think?
I don't have a ton of experience with it, but all I know is stuff like that is happening. Deductibles are changing. Wind hail deductibles are changing like crazy.
What is it now?
Actual.
Like, what's the average? Where is it going?
I mean, nationwide went to 1%. A lot of them are going to 5,000. You know, over 500,000, 10,000 over $1 million house.
So it used to be, I remember back in the 2015 to 20 is like $1,000 deductible.
I know.
Sometimes 500. So we don't have that anymore?
Bro, that has changed. It's changing quick. Like, deductibles are higher. Actual cash value on roofs is happening more and more. State Farm is going to an endorsement where you have to pay 10% roughly on your, over and above your premium you paid this year when you renew, just to have an endorsement to pay for undamaged parts of the roof or whatever. I don't know how exactly it works, but everyone's changing, and it's changing quick along with the higher premiums. Actual cash value roofs, meaning if your roof if it's a 25-year roof and you have 12 years left, they're going to pay you half of what that roof's worth. Wow. Same with scheduled roofs. It's very similar. So things like that, and like you said, the preferred vendors, I haven't really encountered how that works, but everything's changing. And have you seen on your end with how claims are handled, like not getting paid out as much, higher deductibles? Is that?
Yeah, I feel, well, I travel all over the country, so I go to, you know, your Arizonas, your, you know, both coasts, like New York, Texas. Every market is different, but changes are everywhere. You're right. Like, it starts at California, it starts at Florida.
And kind of going back to like a hail claim, one of the carrier reps said this: imagine if we all self-insured and hail, let's say nickel size hail, hits your house and a few dings on the roof, siding, gutters. Are you going to write a check for $150,000 in windows, you know, to replace everything if you have a few dings on your house? No. But that's where we are right now, where there's hail. All of a sudden, a door-to-door guy comes by. Okay, you might have $20,000 roof. Then it turns into the windows, the siding, the overhead and profit. Let's get the public adjusters involved. And then the neighbors get, you know, the neighboritis where they need to do the same thing. Anyway, that's another side of it, which is frustrating for me and frustrating for everybody in the industry.
Last question for you. What's the one fact everyone needs to know about insurance? And why?
You want to use your insurance for the big losses, and just take a long, hard look the next time hail hits your house, and know that the door-to-door guys are going to come out there. And I have nothing against that. I'm a door-to-door guy too. There's legitimate hail. People should be taken care of. But just think, like I said earlier, if I was self-insuring and I had a few dings on my turtle vent, I'm like, am I going to pay $100,000 to replace everything here and go through weeks and weeks of people on my roof and permits and banging, or am I probably going to have another hailstorm in a few years anyway? And do I really want to waste all this stuff and go through this process? And by the way, I've seen my rates jacking up like crazy, and there might be a correlation here as to why this is happening in the industry. So just think hard. Go with a good local guy. Go with a good team like Directory that vets their people and stands behind them, for sure, is another one.
Since you said it, I did not plan it, but I want you to react. I was just thinking, I have a perfect example of, and I'm just curious what you think about this. So this is a roofer. I downloaded from YouTube, a roofer inspecting a roof, and I want you to see this inspection. And 1 minute.
Everyone thinks an under 2-year-old roof or even 5-year-old roof, when they look at it and they don't see hail, that they should walk away and say no damage. Well, Mike found 2 hits. He asked me to come out here and find more damage. So sometimes you got to get on your hands and knees, and you literally got to look for these smaller spots. Here, of course, the hail's been knocked off. A lot of times it's like, don't count the ones at the bottom. Well, count everywhere that hail has impacted and ask questions later. You're not a fucking scientist. You're a roofer. If it's a black mark, if it resembles hail, is it close or is it something else? Who fucking cares? Circle it. Take a picture. Now, my experience in 20 years is throw shit up against the wall and see what sticks. This roof is legitimately damaged, but I gotta get more circles. I gotta show the damage. So what do? Okay, I see it right here. What do? Let's see. I know I'm gonna see it. I'm gonna fill it. Wrap it up right here. This one here is a total loss, guys.
Boom.
Do you agree with that approach?
No, I don't.
But you see a lot of it, right? There's a lot of coaches. This is a coach. You know, if you see it, if it looks like damage, a black mark, right? And I just love the ending. It's like, this is total loss. Did that roof look like total loss?
Throw another shit in the front. That roof's gonna last 20 years all day long, right? And it's probably 5 years, 10 years old already. Yeah. But yeah, they give the good roofers, and I'll shout out to a few roofers I know, like Josh Swisher, North Face. I don't know if you know him. Scott Ricks, Andrew Benson, great guys that I've referred. But a lot of great roofers out there, and there's a lot of guys that give you a bad name, and that's kind of ruining the industry too, and ruining insurance. And
because imagine if that neighborhood, because there's a lot of houses in that neighborhood, we can have total losses in the entire neighborhood. What I'm concerned about is, you know, tens of thousands of pounds of materials in the landfill.
The waste is...
We have the waste, the new materials. I mean, if we don't have to replace it today, can we do it in 5 years? Can we do it in 10 years? Like, why not?
Exactly. I agree with you. And one of the sad things is another angle. It's like that guy in that house that probably has 3 new roofs in 10 years. Let's say he's put in 3 big claims in 10 years for his new roof, and his neighbor hasn't put in 1 claim. That new guy with the new roof has lower premiums by half. So you're rewarding somebody by putting in all those claims and giving him lower premiums. So I don't have all the solutions either.
Well, thank you so much for coming. What I would like to do, I would like to visit your office, maybe next week, do like an office
that'd be
tour.
Fun. Yeah, heck yeah. That'd be great.
Let's do it, brother.
Let's go.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Dimitri.
Good stuff. Guys, comment below what you think about this episode. What do you think about insurance game in general? How is it changing in your market? I read all of my comments and I'll answer them. If you have any questions for Trey, ask them in the comments below as well. But comment below, what do you think causes the issues that we have? Is it lawyers? Is it roofers? Is it economy? Do you agree with the topic today? Comment away. I'll see you guys on the next episode.